out of everyone in our team, Artiel has received the most no's.
But there's a lot of things that we do behind the counter that this guy is responsible for.
Seeing them grow little by little. You knew where they started, and then watching them now is like, wow.
All right, guys, welcome to the podcast at Pochi Bubble Tea Spill the Tea podcast. We have a special guest today. This guy has been with us since the very beginning. Actually, fun story, he didn't really have a choice.
Forcibly.
So he was forcibly. He just showed up and I was like, cool, dude, you are working here with us now. So
I also didn't have a choice in hiring you.
that's true.
You just showed up one day.
I remember.
And Malyn's like, I wonder if I interviewed Glency at the time. It's like, I wonder if I would have hired him. I was like, yeah, probably not. But, didn't really have a
Probably
choice.
not.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, so we have here who is now known as Artiel.
No.
Now known.
He is the store manager of our Kirkland location.
Mm-hmm.
He's been heading that space since April 19th, since we opened. Actually, even before then, because he was the one who interviewed the team, trained everyone there, and really got him up to speed. He's already got an assistant manager set, and his assistant manager already wants to be the store manager at Kirkland. So this guy is doing something right. There is hope for you yet. So, Artiel, the B-boy formerly known as Glency, could you give us a little introduction about yourself and tell everybody who you are and,
And why you go by Glency and Artiel.
So do I tell you like my whole family history?
Oh, God.
Whatever you want.
All right. So I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll start with how I met everybody. So I met Ralph at Kung Fu. Started there like 2010.
You were 13 or something
13,
like that? Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was funny how I met Ralph because he did not like me. What happened was so it used to be a spot for all the B-boys just to dance. And, I was interested in wanting to learn how to do it or wanting to learn, martial arts. So I went to class, right, looking all cool. I got my water bottle on me. I'm about to start class, right? Ralph's like, all right, guys, line up. Me thinking it's cool with my water bottle to toss it up. This was way before when tossing water bottles was a thing. Toss it up and let it land on the counter. So I tossed it, walked away. It hit the counter, fell down. I looked at it. I'm like, nah. I walked away looking cool. Ralph looked at me. He's like, so you're going to pick that up? I'm like, yeah. That's how I met Ralph.
Was he really scary?
It was so scary. You stare right through your eyes and your soul.
Your soul.
I like how you guys said that at the same time.
Yeah. And then I think that day was I felt bad for everybody else because that day he wanted to show me. So we all had to hold stances for like a good 5-10 minutes. And then we would start the actual class just so that he would come after me.
It's like, when you're one person in the it's like a drill sergeant, ran it kind of like a drill sergeant. When one person got out of line, this guy, everybody suffered.
Yeah.
So did everyone in class just stare at you
Yeah,
thanks a lot?
The cool guy.
The cool guy.
The cool guy.
But yeah, and then I don't know. I started just doing classes, and then Ralph took over Pochi. And then what else?
Wait, how many years were you doing Kung Fu
Skipped
then?
like 10
I
years.
know.
of Kung Fu.
Everything is just possible. Okay, yeah. So yeah, did Kung Fu for 7 years. Became an instructor. Worked under Ralph, and then Ralph took over Pochi, and I was like, oh, I want to join Ralph. I want to follow Ralph, and then that's when I met you. And you were, I walked in the kitchen, or I was in the kitchen, stacking up fries. And then there you were like, who's this guy?
Okay.
Wow, you remember that?
I actually remember when he first started because I was, of course, you guys always worked at Kung Fu. So whenever you guys were done working at Kung Fu, you guys would come over to Pochi to help close the store. So it's always late at
5 days
night.
a week.
Yeah. So I remember that's usually when it got busy, and I'm in the drink station working, and then you come in and you have Glency with you. I mean Artiel, and and you just tell me, oh yeah, he's gonna work here. And then you like threw him in the kitchen with like zero training. And I'm like, okay, I hope we have some paperwork for him, but all right. I'm like, I don't know who he is, but okay, cool.
Yeah. No, there was no paperwork at all.
And then I was like, all right, he's getting zero training. I just remember Ralph was just turns into the kitchen and immediately starts yelling at Glency.
His words were, "You're gonna learn kitchen." I'm like, "Yes, sir." Just like we're back in, it's like Kung Fu. Just yes, sir. Start learning it.
I mean, I think that's how you got trained, honestly, when you first.
Well, first of all, we didn't have paperwork when we all started. When
There was barely anything.
the only paperwork we had was a copy of ID
Yeah.
and
And
the food handler's permit, and that was it. That was the only paperwork we ever had
And
in
then
the very beginning.
if you needed any more information, then you'd ask for it. But we literally had like no paperwork, zero. And if we look through our records back to 2015, there's like not a lot of paperwork or documentation.
Yeah, we can't prove that you worked for us at 2015 because we
Yeah.
didn't really have good documentation.
I think I sent it through a text.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Probably.
Man, that is crazy. And then how do you know Arthur? Because
I think I knew Arthur way back before I met you. So this was at the
Ooh.
YMCA. Arthur was the legendary b-boy Atrix.
Yeah.
Atrix.
Everyone knows Atrix.
Like in school, we would have Arthur Day where you have to dress
Yes!
in a
Oh my
suit.
gosh. I
Yes!
forgot
You
about
have to dress
that.
up
there
in a
was an
suit.
Arthur Day?
No, there was.
On
I've
his
heard
birthday-
about it.
On his
Yeah.
birthday, you dress in a suit. You have to.
Yeah.
It'll be disrespectful.
We'll
not
bring it back.
There was an
Who
Arthur
made that
Day.
up?
to. It
Wasn't
was
you that made that
It
up,
was
was
not
it?
me. No,
No.
it
I feel like that was something you'd make up.
was.
It would be. It would be actually.
No, I think this was like the older generations, like
Your friends.
like
It was your
group.
friends.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah. those were
Arthur was pretty popular in the day. Yeah.
good- like,
I feel like every episode we talk about how cool Arthur is.
I swear, you were.
He's like low key.
I wanted to make this my b-boy name. Okay, Air Tricks, right? Because I used to jump really high, really high, air, and then I found out his name was Atrix, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you guys should battle." And I've seen all his videos. I'm like, no, just give it to him. I would not take that name.
That's crazy. So you actually known Arthur for quite a while.
I've known Arthur. He taught me some of my first b-boy steps.
Oh,
Just like that.
just like that.
Mhm.
Well, okay, so let's kind of rewind back. Gosh, we were talking before we started recording that the last time the four of us sat down and had just kind of like a regular chat,
With you only.
with you only.
Yeah.
Was when you were interviewing to be an assistant manager here in Lynnwood. And that was a really fun experience. Fun.
It was terrible.
Okay. What made that so scary or kind of like intimidating for you?
Honestly, like, I think interviews in general, like even now, I'm like kind of a little shaky. But I think interviews in general just make it seem so. I don't want to say professional. It just makes me want to say the words that you guys want to hear versus me really saying what I want to say.
Yeah.
So now it's like a battle in my head. It's like, oh, am I even saying the right thing? Is this what they want to hear?
Like feeling pressured.
Yeah. So it's like whenever, like, if these weren't around, like our conversations would be like a lot more authentic, more fun. And I think it is getting to that authentic and fun. But yeah, back then, like you were saying, if you were to interview me on my first day, Yeah, you'd be like, what's wrong with this kid?
If you were to interview you, what would you think?
Oh yeah, well, if you were gonna interview you,
If I interviewed
Yeah.
me,
would you hire you?
I would no. Oh my god.
The honesty. Thank you.
No, it would be, yeah. My answers I remember. It's like, okay, what are your goals? To do good. Like they were just one word responses, and when you were like, give me an example, I'm like, I couldn't even remember the examples because I don't think I had any. I was like trying so hard to talk about what you guys would like to hear. So that was the interview.
So you went from like answering questions
Mm-hmm.
in a way where you gave the answers of what you think the person wanted to hear, which you get now that you're doing a lot of interviews. You know what that's like, right?
Yes.
So how did you get over that? Like, how did you get past that? Because now you're a lot more like real, a lot more just you're you now.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I call you out on your BS when you're just giving me some like crap answer that's not really. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So how'd you get over kind of like wanting to or just answering in a way where the other person wants to hear?
I think it's really understanding myself more because I know back then, like, if I look up to you, I want to be you. So that's me trying to be somebody else. And I looked up to you a lot, right? And you were this badass, stern. This guy is like on point. Whenever you walked in a room, everybody looked. They're like, "Oh shit!" So I want to be that person. So me being a different type of person made me lose who I am. Made me lose my authenticness. I don't know if that's a word, but yeah,
It
made
is
me-
now.
Oh, cool. It made me lose like who I want to be, or who I should have been, and now realizing that being authentic gets me more. Being authentic just means like I'm able to be myself more, and being myself more means like people see the real me, and you build more connections that way.
Awesome. So people get to like you for
Mhm.
the person that you really are,
Mm-hmm.
and not like you for somebody that you're really not.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing too, is like I was so caught up in trying to be liked by everybody, so I had to do all these different things to want to be liked. I know when I first started, being the manager, I was a clown. I wanted everybody to laugh, and I wanted everybody to just, have a good time, but in a way where it affected my leadership, like affected who they see me as a leader, right? It was more so laughing at me versus with me, right? And then, we've had all the conversations where it's like, hey, you should try this. I think they're laughing at you, not with you. They won't see you as a leader that way, right? So then I tried the rough thing, stern, all right, let's get this right. And that, of course, was not me at all. That was like the opposite who I was. And I think I lost a lot of people's respect that way. And, they just wouldn't want to follow somebody who's fake. And then owning, not like owning, like, my responsibilities and being the store manager of Kirkland, like going through the process of running Kirkland made me really realize like what it really means to be a leader. And it's really first starting with yourself, being honest with yourself, and being able to be so authentic and say what you mean, and like just be who you are, and people will follow you because you're real.
That was quite a journey for you,
Mm-hmm.
because we started this whole Pochi project back in 2015. We're in 2023. Gosh, we're coming up on our 8th year. That's crazy. And we're not like, as far as the company goes, we're not like growing really really fast, because we're really kind of focusing on within and making sure we're developing our systems and processes really well before we expand. But you've been here since the beginning, and you've only taken over Kirkland since last year.
Yeah.
So your journey wasn't overnight.
Yeah.
It was a process.
It was a process. And I think what also got me to thinking of like when I was able to be the store manager, right? That's always been one of my goals working here. I wanted to be able to run a location. And so when I got to store manager, I think what happened was everything started going down. Everything started like happening that was like wrong. I got like in my head I was like depressed. Like things were just going wrong, and it became really difficult. And understand like looking back at it now, it's because I had this goal and I tried so hard to get to this goal. And when I got to that goal, it's like it just went downhill. It's because I really never appreciated and understood of liking the process to get to that goal.
You kind of gave your process meaning. You gave your goal kind of meaning and purpose behind it. You weren't just being a naturally born. And we've seen this. Somebody who's naturally born or like naturally good at something.
Talent.
They don't. Yeah, people who are very talented can be very lazy because they're so good.
Yep.
And then when it comes time to like really show that talent, they mess it up. They drop the ball. In this case, you drop the spear. There was somebody that we knew that we trained with a long time ago, and really, really good, talented, more talent than like either of us put together. I mean, he says he could jump. This dude can jump like crazy. Doesn't look it like defies gravity. And we were training, and he doesn't go all out in our training. Like we kind of go all out when we train and practice. And when we were training one night, I was like, dude, you got to push it a little bit more. Like, practice like you really mean it. And it's like, I'll turn it on when it's time for the demo. Demo came, did not work. Yeah, so you really got to put in. You have to perform every time the way you want to perform in real, like when it comes time for the show.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think too, when I was performing, even I messed up. Even no matter how hard I pushed, I messed up. I think the reason why I messed up was I was pushing so hard for this goal versus enjoying the process of getting to that goal. Yep.
Once you get on stage and the adrenaline happens and it comes time to like perform, right? If you've never been used to performing all out or you're at your best ever, then you only, you fall to the highest level of preparation.
Yeah, we do not rise to the occasion. We fall to the highest level of our
training.
Or for practice, for preparation.
I'm curious. You were talking about how when you first started, building out Kirkland and stuff, since you're kind of the forefront of that, and you said for a little bit you got depressed and stuff. Would you say that like the turning point for that was it once you started focusing on like the details of the journey of building Kirkland up? Is that when like kind of like the depression started changing into more of like being like passionate about what you were doing in the growth, or what was kind of the turning point of when you went from kind of overcame the depression portion of that?
Yeah. So, because for myself, like the thing that always gets in my head is I overthink and I beat myself a lot. Right. And being in that position is like, yes, like I'm in that position. It's like, it's not over, right? You got to be able to actually do the performance and be able to maintain what you've learned and be that store manager. And I think it's got to a point where it's like, I just kept messing up. And the more I mess up, it just creates this snowball effect where everything just kept piling up and piling up. And it made me feel like I couldn't do it. And at that point, it's just like, should I give up? It's like, is this really meant for me? Is this what I'm even supposed to do? Because I just kept getting everything wrong. And then it's the conversations that I was able to have with Malyn and Ralph and you, of course, where it's focusing on who I am as a person and focusing on the things that I do really well on, and which is me connecting with people. Like people, being able to talk with people, connect with people, and making sure that they're having the time of their lives. And when I was able to focus on that, those strengths that I have and those connections, everything else fell into place.
And it showed because, like, in your work, like, I know you doubted yourself a lot and you always were like, oh, I'm bad at this or I'm not very good at this. But it wasn't that you weren't capable of doing those things or didn't know how to do those things, because the minute your mindset changed, your perspective changed, it was like, oh my God, this guy was not ever not good at this. He was good at it. It's just, it was your mindset really that kind of affected everything.
It was.
And once that shifted, like you said, everything fell into place and you were just like on it with everything. Like I just told you recently, I was like, holy crap, like you're on it right now. Like I don't have to worry about a thing right now because like you've been so on it and you've been able to execute so well. And I think it really is just from that mindset shift that you've had.
Right. Yeah, no. Like things that I thought to myself I was terrible at was communicating and my operations, just day-to-day operations, right? And for communication, I think what really made me so bad at it was working here and then I guess changing my way of communicating with the team here. So back at Kung Fu, I was able to communicate with the kids, right? You just simplify everything, do it with them, and the communication from me to them was really easy, was really simple. It's like, in my head, it's like, man, I'm really good at communicating this. So, of course, I did really good at communications. I came here, I asked, things were communicated, and then there was miscommunication, and then things started falling apart. I'm like, man, I suck at communicating. So, of course, my communication sucked. So, it is definitely the mindset, especially now. I got a lot better. Of course, I can do better, but I got a lot better at communicating the things that I need to communicate, right? And also, back then, I think it was when I was in Philippines, and I was born in Philippines, went to Saipan, and I was raised in Saipan. It's my first language was always Tagalog, right? And when I spoke to people, it was me trying to learn English, and really, I think that's all the communications part where I knew like first time ever I started communicating because I was trying to communicate to people that didn't really understand my language. So of course I started speaking English, and then from there it's where I forgot my first language. So I think there's also that communication area where I kind of lost. If that makes sense.
Well, coming from like Tagalog being my first language too, it's like you have to. This is really weird. It's hard to do actually, because when you learn a first language that's not English, you translate it in your head. So you went from Tagalog to English in your head, probably for the longest time. So you kind of go through that process, and then it's almost like I know your family still speaks Tagalog. So now, do you go from English to Tagalog in your head?
No, it's crazy because I am in my head. I'm really fluent in Tagalog. Like if you speak to me Tagalog, it's not, all right, English. What is this? No, it's Tagalog. Oh, I know what that means.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think that's where the communication is. Like that process where it's like, oh, I gotta turn it this way for me to understand, and then to be able to communicate.
So inherently, Tagalog is still your first language.
It is.
Yep.
You just can't speak it as much.
Yeah,
right?
so for some reason, subconsciously, I just can't say the words properly or the right way.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Not with Tagalog, but with Cambodian.
I think it's me being in Saipan. It was a little messed up when I was there growing up because when I did speak Tagalog, I would get bullied to a point where I had to speak English to fit in and to be able to communicate.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, so I was bullied into not speaking Tagalog.
This like in school?
Yeah,
Wow,
school,
yeah,
just
really?
like the area there, it was, again, back when I was living there, it was really, really hard for Filipinos living there because it was so, like, I guess, diverse. Like,
Yeah.
the Islanders and the Filipinos, they didn't really get along. And, yeah, and it was just more so you gotta speak English to be able to fit in. And again, subconsciously, I can understand Filipino. I can like fluently understand it. I just can't speak it. I can't say it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, you know, I know, kind of going back to the whole communications thing, and this is what I kind of noticed is we did talk about how much you needed to work on your communication, but I think part of that, we got to own that 100%. That's kind of on us because we were trying to get Artiel, formerly known as Glency, to talk in a way where we thought it would be fitting.
Mm-hmm.
And then now he's just speaking and communicating in a way where it's just him.
Yeah.
And so now that he's able to not have this like, oh, I have to be a certain way or I'm trying to be a certain way, I think he's actually able to communicate better.
Yeah. I think we didn't help it the first couple of years.
No, definitely not.
And then also, I think we tried to accelerate your like learning process way faster than you were ready for.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that put even more pressure on you than necessary. And then the pressure between us trying to work with you and communicating to like just your experience, it was just like a lot going on. And I think we went too fast, too much, too soon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it's the constant, like, here's where you need to get better communicating, which translates to my head, you're a bad communicator, which then in my head, it's like, yeah, you just like communicating, just don't do it, right? So it was definitely the experience of that. I think it also helped me really understand where I'm at. So now, like, looking back, it's like, I should have enjoyed that process. If I enjoyed that process of learning how to communicate, I think I would have done a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, I mean, it kind of happens to all of us at one point or another, but I remember back then, and I saw kind of like how you took the feedback and critique into. It was like, oh, okay, like they're telling me I did this wrong or I could have done this better. And then you took it really hard because you were really hard on yourself. So we could visibly see that.
Yeah.
It was like slumped shoulders. It was like you were in your head. You were a bit more quiet. So how do you take things in now? Like how do you think about it now? How is that different?
Oh, I think I take it for what it is. It's you guys communicate to me not in a way to who I am as a person. It's now just the behavior. And behaviors can change.
Yep.
Right? It's
100%.
when you guys communicate, it's like, here's what you're doing wrong. I look at it as, oh, maybe if I just need to fix my behavior, then things will go right. Versus back then, it's like, man, I'm stupid. I suck at this.
Took
Why
it
am I
more
even
personal.
here? Yeah, it's all personal, right? But right now it's like I still do take it to heart because I do care about what you guys say, and that needs me to being able to change my behavior.
Love that. Well, here's the thing too. Like I remember, what kind of going back to being in kung fu and stuff. I mean, we've trained. We've gosh, oops, I fidget. We've trained, and this guy. I mean, we've bled, we've sweat, and he's choked me out before.
He's made me cry.
Why you gotta say that?
I remember that story.
Not emotional pain cry. That was a physical pain cry.
I was emotional.
It was both for you.
It was his elbows contacted to my head.
Ooh, ouch.
He had a helmet.
Oh.
Oh yeah, I had a helmet.
And a mouth guard.
Yeah. When he used his elbow, my helmet turned from one way, 180 to the other way. I turned it back. He was like, "Are you ready?" Yeah. Bam, went the other way.
And then it's just tears.
Yeah, turned it back. You see tears. And he says, "Go wash your face off."
For anyone listening or watching, by the way, this was while they were training martial arts. This is
Not a regular
We don't
day-to-day
physically abuse our employees
in the
at
kitchen.
Pochi's. In the kitchen.
It was in the kitchen.
in the middle of
Oh
a
my
work
God.
day.
Well, anyways, before we got into Glency crying, Artiel, it's actually, I'm not surprised that he's in the position of leadership that he is in now, because when I left, I was a head instructor at Kung Fu, right, for a while, and when I left, it, like, no questions asked, he was the head instructor. Like, he went from the kid who threw the water bottle and left it there and, yeah, I'm cool, yeah, whatever, to the guy in charge. to the guy in charge of all the kids programs and the teenager programs, and probably led some of the adult classes occasionally too. So, I mean, that's a huge from 0 to being that, to be the top guy there was, it kind of just happened naturally. And then of course, here we are. You had no choice but to learn the kitchen very beginning.
I think that's the main point there. No choice.
No choice.
There was no choice.
There was no choice.
Okay, what's also really crazy too, and it really speaks to your character, is out of everyone in our team, Artiel has received the most no's out of everyone.
That's true.
We've told you no to so many things, so many times over the years. Like I could not count how many times we've said no to you.
This guy actually has a lot of good ideas, and we've said no to a lot of those. A lot of it because it just wasn't the right time, but some of it were just kind of like kooky and like off the wall. But here's the thing: what I really like is that you don't give up. A lot of people get the first couple no's and like, oh, okay, never mind, I'm done. But it's like, oh, how about this? Nope. How about this? Nope. There's a lot of things that we do now. I can't tell you guys what that is because, trade secret. But there's a lot of things that we do behind the counter that this guy is responsible for.
Yeah, for speeding up our efficiency and process for operations and just being able to do it better, more efficiently. Like this guy right here. Some of the new additions to our menu, actually. This guy right here.
I'm still waiting on chocolate pudding. Oh, wait. Am I not supposed to say that?
No. You make it for us, and then we'll let you know.
We have to try it.
I'll give you a no right now.
But there's been some ideas where we have said no, and then we'll revisit and totally forgot that you brought it up like years ago. And then you're like, well, I told you this before.
Yeah, I actually started dating the things that I said. And I told Arthur about this. I started dating it when you said no. And then maybe in like the next couple months, I would have somebody else bring it up.
Yeah.
And you guys are like, that's a great idea.
Do you still have the list of dates?
I still do have it.
Okay, Malyn knows exactly how you feel because I say no to her a lot.
Yeah.
I do know how you feel. I've brought many ideas up, and then Ralph 2 seconds later brings up the same idea, and I'm like, I literally just told you this.
Yeah.
I think I enjoy the process of when you guys say no, and I'm like, all right, well, let me think of something else, and you guys will say yes.
Yeah.
I will make you guys say yes.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Question: what made you like not take those no's personally?
That is a good point.
Yeah, because no's are hard.
I think that's where I enjoyed the challenge, where you guys are just like constantly saying no. I'm like, okay, next one, right?
Yeah.
It's like trying to find the yes versus focusing on all the
love
no's.
that. Trying to find a yes. That's going on the hot takes right there.
It only take one yes. One yes.
Oh, I came up with something good.
That was fire, man. I don't know where you got that. So here's the thing. It's funny because a few nights last week or the week before, I was telling Malyn because Artiel and I would talk a lot occasionally and just kind of like bounce off ideas. There's a lot of times where he'd be asking me questions like, "Hey, how do I do this?" or like, "How do I approach this?" And then for a while, I didn't hear from Artiel. And I was telling Malyn, I was like, "Honey, I think Artel's kind of like starting to drift away. Like he's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm not talking to him as much, and I feel
felt distant.
It felt distant.
Yeah.
He felt more distant. And then we had a conversation outside, and he told me about the book he's reading, what he's learning, how he's implementing it. I'm like, this is the most proud moment I have. But this guy is like,
Literally.
we've talked about this. It was like there was a time that I am looking forward to where you don't need my coaching as much. You don't need me helping you, and you don't need me helping you see other things, and where you get to have that kind of like lesson within yourself. And when we were talking out there and you were telling us all this stuff, I was like, this is it. This is the moment. It was like a bittersweet moment because it's like, that means I don't get to talk with you as much, because also the sweet part, because you're able to grow yourself now. So that was a really cool moment. It was very bittersweet.
Yeah. And it was kind of like It's like well, we're not parents or anything, but it's like when the child leaves, like goes off and like becomes an adult and spread their wings, gets
fly
out
away.
into the world. It was kind of like that moment because
When I became an adult. Nice.
okay,
Well, now that you
But-
say that.
but yeah, no, really. That's when I messaged you that night because this guy would not stop talking about that moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just need to tell him.
Oh.
Like
You
how-
messaged him?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Damn.
I didn't tell Ralph
No,
that I
dude, no.
messaged you.
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah. So now I messaged him that night, and I was like, Ralph is so proud of you.
That night. I don't know about that moment right there.
But yeah, he was so proud of you, and I think it went from kind of being worried about how you were doing to like, okay, actually, he's okay. He's just more independent now. He just doesn't need us to handhold him through like every little thing that you're going through. Which is huge. Which is huge. It's like you've come a long way, and I think because Ralph has been there since the beginning, since what, you were 13. It was just like a huge moment.
Right. Yeah. I'm always looking for guidance, right? And I think when you guys brought that up, it's like, oh, you're more independent. I didn't realize it until you guys told me. So it's like, wow, that's a big step up. Because again, I always go for you guys' advice, right? And I still do. Like there will be times where I do need advice, and I know you guys. I remember you guys bringing up the advice like where I started talking about the books and the podcast, and you guys were like, we told you to do this way before. What made it change now? And thinking back at it, it's if I were to read the same books that I'm reading now back then and listen to a podcast, I think the change in myself won't be the same now, if that makes sense.
Like more
'Cause-
ready to accept it now.
Yeah. So, because I was able to really be honest with myself, honestly, in the last year, this last year.
Yeah.
Right. That's when I noticed myself changing, and when I started reading those books, it just started clicking, and it just started making sense, and how I can apply that to my leadership skills. Because if I did this back then, where I was reading these books, it was now more so for me, like trying to impress you guys and trying to
good point,
do
yeah.
what the book is telling me to do, but not my own way. It's gonna be the book tells me to do this. I'm gonna do exactly this.
Yeah,
right?
it didn't resonate as well.
Yeah. Now I'm able to read this and listen to this and be like, okay, how can I make this in my own way, my own style, right?
Fantastic.
Being my authentic way.
Nice. And that's that comes at you've come a long way there, because I know one time there was a point in time where you were thinking of quitting.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? I don't know if you guys knew about that, but there was a time where Glency was actually thinking of quitting. Artel, you were Glency at that time.
We got to go over why he's Artel or Glency.
Yeah, can you explain why we call you Artel and Glency sometimes?
Okay. So I grew up with being called Glency because that is my second name. Artel is my first name, and I see Artel as a name that I would only use in school, right? It's professional. It sounds more professional, and Glency is more so casual and to people that I'm close with.
Yeah.
So here I was always been called Glency, and I see Artel now as like, why can't that be both? Why can't that be a casual professional name? And it's also easy when you're signing signatures and documents. And they're like, what's your first name? Glency. Well, here in your license says Artel. Oh, I'm like, you're right, it is Artel. So so it made everything in that like legal wise easier, and then Artel is just casual professional name.
It's unique too. It's actually pretty unique. But anyways, kind of going back to you, there was a point in time, nice, trying to distract that. There was a point in time where you were thinking of quitting.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like? When you were at that point, like what got you there? What got you out of there?
Sitting in a role with like lots of responsibilities, is when things started to fall apart for me, because I had to set the standards, the expectations. I had to do this to be in this role, right?
Can you explain that a little bit?
It's when I achieved like certain roles, like lead position or even the store manager position, right? I was there, and then things just started going wrong, and then in my head,
Okay.
it's like, you are failing. You just can't do this. Just give up. You're done. Like, why are you even here, right? It's during those moments where I felt like getting depressed and like I just wanted to give up. And I think those were the moments that made me want to quit. Yeah.
So, like right now, if you can go back to Glency,
Mhm.
Artiel back in 2015, 2016, when we first took over,
Yeah.
time travel,
Yeah.
what would you tell yourself?
You're a dumbass. Sorry, I'm gonna cut that out.
That was the key phrase back then.
That was a key phrase.
It's my fault.
What I would really tell myself was just to enjoy my work as I'm working. Like enjoy
I love that.
everything that I'm doing, right? Because again, back then my goal was to move up in rank, to be the best of the best. Because that's what I was taught. Just you got to be the best. That didn't really make me enjoy what was in the moment. So being able to enjoy the moment and enjoy the process.
So what's kind of like your favorite things to do in your role now?
My role now,
Yeah.
there's a lot. Yelling. No, just kidding. I think I'm in my role. I think I'm able to I guess be able to see like our team more, because in this role you gotta be constantly at work, right? But just being able to connect with the people that are there and seeing them grow little by little. It's watching them. You knew where they started, and then watching them now is like, wow, that's amazing, right?
Part of that too, and like I know we're trying to wrap up here, but like one of the things that I really enjoy watching now is your salary 40 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't in your schedule the other night to have a conversation with your assistant manager because you wanted to coach him on something.
Mm-hmm.
And not on his schedule because he's salary, he doesn't clock in, clock out. So it's not part of his 40 hours. Like, no, I want to go talk to this guy. There's some things that I want to kind of help him get through.
Mm-hmm.
And you take your time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, I'm not clocked in, so I'm not going in. It's like you really take your time to be with your team, to help your team. And you take that like to heart, and you take that really seriously, that ability to be
care.
the care beyond. It's like going above and beyond, like in a different way.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people I know, like, time is very important, right? That's something that you will never get back.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of thinking defensively, like, oh, this is my time, I'm never going to get this back, it's my time that I want to be able to give,
That I get to
to
do this with.
Yeah, it's when I used to do things, right? Again, it was more so if I want to do this for them, it was because there's a purpose, there's an intention. It's gonna make me happy. Now I see it as I want to do this for them. That's it. There's no because. There's no reasoning. It's just because I just want to. I want to do this for them. That's it. So it's more of a selfless act with nothing in return. Like, if I don't expect anything back, so it's just solely for them.
I think that's great because you've learned to give instead of like guarding your time so hard that it's like, this is my time. It's like you learn to give your time, and it shows in the team, in your team, because the store manager that we're gonna have in our North location used to be your assistant manager. And when we were doing some switching and stuff, one of the things he said was like, hey, when we do this switch again, I want to make sure Artiel is good. So if I need to, if you guys are cool with it, can I kind of assist him like I did before? Because I want to make sure I have his back because he has always had mine. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
somebody's doing something right.
Yeah. And it shows in your customer service too, because there's been so many of our regulars or our customers that just love and adore you. like John.
Yep. I mean, if you guys go to Kirkland, if you guys ever go to Kirkland and this guy's sitting on the table in the Kirkland location, he may not be in like uniform. he'll just say hi to you, and it's kind of weird. Some random guy in
It is
casual wear saying, "Hey, how you doing?" But like that's just kind of how it is, and it's actually kind of a nice little culture change where
Yeah.
we've just start like really just greeting people very authentically as they come in. You guys have so in Kirkland, I feel like you know half of your customers by name.
Oh, we do. We know their drinks too.
Yeah.
As soon as they walk in, and we go, Thai milk tea with boba, we got you. Yeah.
Love that.
And then like when customers, not even customers, were just people walk by, not even
Yeah.
into the store, we just wave hi. We've
Yeah.
had regulars that come in and say the reason why I came here is because you waved at me that day.
While they were
That's
outside.
really
While they were outside,
nice.
even before we opened, like
Yeah,
we were
I
training.
remember.
Yeah, we would just wave at people randomly.
And he would be sitting. It was funny because I would see him sitting just like at the tables, not in uniform, and he would be waving to people on the street, and they don't know that he works there. And I'm like, hey, you know you're not in uniform, right? They probably think you're a rando, just like waving.
The fact that their attention turns and they're like, oh, and then they look everywhere else, Pochi. So,
Yeah.
so
This guy, I love it. Well,
awesome.
before we close out, Artiel, is there any last words or any last tips that you could give to people or suggestions? You've got a lot. I think you have a lot more than you think, man.
I do have a lot. I think just my main words of wisdom, or like what I am focusing on now, is just enjoying the process and enjoying the moment. Because when you enjoy the moment, everything else will just come in place.
You gotta enjoy the
Nice.
pain. You get that, Benji? You gotta enjoy
Pain
the
is
pain.
good.
Hey.
Wait, what's your favorite drink of the moment?
My favorite drink in the moment right now is a passion fruit green tea.
Is that what you're drinking?
That's what I'm drinking.
Hey.
Nice.
Arthur is drinking beast mode without the flavoring, so it's just beast.
I think tomorrow I'm feeling caramel coffee ice cream blended though. That's the moment.
Hey.
That's
really
for
good.
tomorrow.
That one's good though.
What are
With
you
ice
drinking,
cream.
Malyn?
I'm drinking a peach lychee green tea with mango jelly.
Oh, I went with a winter melon black tea. No sugar, no added sugar.
Oh yeah.
Grass jelly and the coconut jelly. I love our grass jelly. Ever since we started making that ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
it is so good.
It's
like
a textural thing.
Yeah, I would eat that just in a cup by itself.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Put
probably
that
not
on
that healthy. But like,
That with some
this-
ice cream or something.
yeah. Oh, my, oh.
Or
oh.
like our parents' generation, it'd be just grass jelly, ice, and then sugar.
The grass
how
jelly
my
drink.
family-
Mm-hmm.
It
Or,
is
or
good
condensed
stuff.
milk.
Oh, yep.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Shaved ice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, stay tuned for the next episode because we might bring this guy back sometime. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
Mhm.
We'll see.
All right,
Thanks,
guys. Thank you so
Artel.
much. Bye.
you.